Democrat approval ratings continue to tank, and I can think of maybe a few hundred reasons why. But out of curiosity, let me ask an actual Democrat because Liberal Tuesday starts in just a moment. But first, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the Tomi Lahren is Fearless YouTube page at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. The show starts now. So, according to the latest Gallup poll, Democratic congressional leaders' rating among their own party faithful has fallen 41 points since last year to their lowest point ever. Just 39% of Democrats reported approving of their congressional leadership. The previous low for Democratic congressional leaders among Democrats was 60% recorded in 2005. For our part, Republicans' confidence in our own party's congressional leaders has never fallen below 42%. And that's pretty significant because Republicans are known for our ability to eat our own. But I'm going to tell you why I think Democrats are doing so poorly with their own constituents. They live in the Commons, the echo chamber, the D.C. Beltway, the swamp, and take their cues from leftist legacy media. They only listen to each other, so they think whatever they're doing is working. They drink their own bathwater, so to speak. And that is why they're not changing course on any of the ridiculous hills they've gone to die on. Like, seriously, their party is the Heaven's Gate cult of 2025, waiting for the great comet to come. Hint, hint, it ain't coming. Y'all are dying for nothing, but you won't see Republicans intervening anytime soon. Have at it. But not too deep under the surface, Democrats are going after one another, at least the media ones.
Well, so here's James Carville. Here's what he had to say about your idea. Take a listen.
The most insane thing I ever heard is the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee is spending $20 million running against other Democrats. Aren't we supposed to run against Republicans?
What's your response?
What's his plan to deal with our 27% approval rating? That's my question to him. The fact of the matter is right now, our party is in a crisis. We are seeing people lose faith in our party. They're losing faith in democracy across the country. And we need to make sure that we're getting people to vote for Democrats, not simply because we're not Donald Trump, but because we have a better message, a better option for them. Not simply the less bad of two options, as I think Carville tries to promote when he says, well, we just shouldn't say anything. Carville believes in a politics of being timid, of hiding. I believe in fighting. And that is what people want to see right now from the Democratic Party. And we just saw an example of that with Senator Van Hollen going to El Salvador to say we need to meet.
I'm not sure how well David Hogg would fare in a fight, but that's neither here nor there. Still, the Hogg v. Carville feud wasn't on my bingo card, but hey, guess what? I'll take it. Joining me now to opine on it all is Democratic strategist, and they need some strategy right now, Nicole Brener-Schmitz. All right, Nicole, I have a lot to discuss with you, but I want to go to that Carville-David Hogg thing. I think that if you had to choose a messenger, if in your position, I wouldn't choose either one of them. I think that Carville represents an old guard. He hasn't really won an election since the Clinton era. And then you've got David Hogg. If you got a problem with masculinity in your party, I'm not sure thrusting David Hogg into that vortex is going to improve it. But what's your take? Do you think it's an either or neither?
I mean, look, this is the classic conundrum that the Democratic Party is in right now. I think that, Carville really represents this new Dem moderate. He really thinks that that's where the party should be. It should be more at the middle. And obviously, David Hogg is on the very, very progressive side. So they represent both ends of this big tent of the party and the turmoil that the party's under right now of which way to go and how to lead and what to put forward. I did like what Hogg said when he says you can't just be, we're not Trump. You have to give the American people what are you going to do? How are you going to improve their lives? Do you understand their values and what they need? And are you going to move that ball forward? But I also agree with Carville that this is not the time and the place to start getting in and spending millions of dollars on these primaries and internal fights. We should be having the ability to take back control of the House. That should be the focus for the upcoming midterms. So both had good points, but it is the conundrum of the party at its peak.
Yeah, I do think it's a little interesting to spend donor money fighting other Democrats. I'm not so sure that when you're, facilitating donations that using it to fight against your own party, that seems a little muddy there. I'm not sure, but I do agree that the Democrats need to shuffle the deck. They need to figure out something, because what they're doing right now isn't working. But I'm perplexed, Nicole, and you've got to help me out with this. I am so perplexed. The hills that Democrats are dying on right now, it just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I said this yesterday, and I don't want to help the Democrat Party out at all. But if I were you and I were a Democrat strategist, I would say, hey, listen, the vulnerability right now with the Republican Party and the Trump administration, it's not the Signal group chats. It's not deporting illegal aliens. It's not Law and Order. It's not Doge. Problem that the Trump administration is currently having, which I think is, a short-term problem, is the economy. If I was a Democrat right now, I would be nailing the economy every single day. I would be like, look, the prices aren't coming down. Now, I don't want to give you all any ideas, but that's not what Democrats are doing. Democrats are like, bring back Abrego Garcia. He might not be an MS-13 gang member, but he also might be an MS-13 gang member. We should bring him back and figure it out. That seems like a bizarre thing to be, right now, at least this week, the number one issue.
So what I think the Democrats who have traveled down there and are focusing on this particular issue is the due process issue. What they're really trying to say is there's a problem with the administration not listening to the courts. There's a problem with us not having people have due process, because that's a slippery slope and it doesn't end there. Do I think that that's the message that is coming across every time? No, but I think that was and is the goal of the party. But I couldn't agree with you more. Why we are not talking about the economy every single day and every single minute blows my mind. And I thought something you said at the top of the show was spot on and insightful, in that I live in Bethesda, Maryland. I am a DC Democrat, admittedly, but I, have spent a lot of my career representing labor unions, working people, and why we are not out there having those conversations and talking to them and making sure that we are not only chatting amongst ourselves and reading what we post on X or Blue Social or whatever the new one is, amongst our own thoughts, is so important. We have to be out there. People, I tell members all the time, I'm like, have your town halls and go into locals, go to the work sites, have conversations, because the reality is in America, we're living together. We're raising our children together in communities. And for the most part, even if we identify as Democrats or independents and Republicans, and this is true at my own daughter's school, we have the same real goals for our lives and for our kids' lives overall. And we've got to have a conversation about how to get there. It is agreed that immigration is a problem in this country. Now, do I think there should be due process and what they're talking about is important? Yes. But do we need to deal with the immigration problem at its core? Also, yes. So, it's both parties do need to come to the table and have these conversations, but the Democrats, in order to win back the voters and really be able to do what they believe, what we believe is best for this country, have to actually communicate with the people of this country.
A real short answer on this. How many working class Americans, Republican or Democrat, do you think stay awake at night or wake up in the morning worried about due process for illegal aliens? And I just negate all the legal, ramifications and the consequences, all that aside. What percentage do you really think it is that really gives a crap about Abrego Garcia and others like him who are in our country illegally?
Look, I do not think that is what people wake up thinking. This is my thing for today. I'm very concerned about this particular due process for this person or these group. But it's one of those issues that's so important for the Democrats and Republicans, if they would join that, to have a concern and focus on and make sure that we are doing this as a country, because it is a slippery slope. Oh, it's this group that isn't getting it. That's okay because of X. And then that X, that marker moves down the line. And then it is a problem, because all of a sudden we don't have the justice system that makes America so great and makes us this democracy that should be a beacon to the world. But yes, I think people are waking up saying, hey, I got to go fill up my tank again. The egg prices, inflation's still up. And so that's why we are confident parties should be able to walk and chew gum. We can have the conversations and the legal battles and be dealing with this incredibly important issue of due process, but also communicating with the voters about what their day to day and what they are waking up, like I did this morning, rushing my kid to get dressed, are your shoes on yet? And we got to get there. And, that's the chaos of people's days. It's taken up by their actual lives.
Yeah. Well, polling also suggests that Americans don't just want to deport criminal illegal aliens. Americans support deporting all illegal aliens. I'm in that camp, but shockingly, it's not just me and it's not just my mega cohort. Americans want illegal aliens out of this country because they've been beaten over the head with this for 4 years of the borders being open. And I think that you know this. There's not a lot of confidence in the Americans, Republican, Democrat, that are really angry about the immigration invasion. There's not a lot of confidence, I believe, in their mind that if Democrats come back into power, they won't open up that border again. I don't think that there's an American out there that's being honest, that's like, oh, you know what? If we get a Democrat president in 2028, they're going to secure the border. I think that they look at everything going on. They see people flying to El Salvador to bring back illegal aliens. They see every time a group of illegal aliens are ready to be deported, it's like, no, turn the buses around. Oh, no, you can't take away the status for these people. So I don't think that your party is instilling a lot of confidence in voters that your party really understands the horror of what illegal immigration has done to this country over the Biden tenure. Do you?
I mean, look. Under the Obama years, there were less crossing the borders than under the first Trump years. I don't think it's a D versus R White House. I think it's incredibly sad that a bill that was actually agreed upon, the Lankford, who's a pretty conservative Republican out of Oklahoma that had bipartisan agreement was going to pass, was shot down. That would have been the first real step in a long time to addressing this issue.
We didn't need that bipartisan border bill that actually allowed thousands to come in before there was an ability to shut it down, that provided legal assistance for illegal aliens. I mean, that bill, to most of us who are immigration hawks, was trash. And now we're seeing President Trump be able to basically secure the border without any legislation from Congress. I agree it needs to be codified. Do not get me wrong. But this whole thing of like, oh, if we would have done that, like, but we didn't need it though. And Democrats showed no desire over 4 years to actually secure the border. So I don't think your party has really given the American people any confidence that you care about illegal immigration.
I think if you took a poll, I mean, I'm not looking at them right now, but yeah, I think if you took a poll and you have people who say, this is my most important issue to me, and what party do I think is going to do X, which is shut down the border, then yeah, I think the American people think that's the Republican Party. I don't think the Democratic Party thinks that just deporting every single person and shutting down the border completely is the solution to this issue as a whole. I don't think that they think that that helps the American economy. I think we're forgetting that there are a lot of people who do live here and they pay taxes, and they're a part of this system in our world now. And we need to figure out how to have that in a humane way. You know, we also dealt with, you know, the separating of children and their parents for a long time with that. And that influenced, you know, the Biden administration's policy. And I stand firm that I don't
hundreds of thousands of kids, though. I mean, that's a hard argument for me when it's like the crying over the separating the parents from their supposed children, when the Biden administration lost hundreds of thousands and didn't seem too intent on figuring out where they went. You know, they come across the border, they got an address, they're sent to God knows where, living with God knows who, and we don't really even know where a lot of those kids are today. So the compassion issue is also going to be a hard sell, I think.
Well, I don't think the compassion issue is a hard sell. I think that that is something that we can have. We can have empathy for these kids that are being separated from their parents. I think we have to have empathy for people who are, you know, taking these risks and crossing over. And that's why we need to have a system that figures out, are they having political asylum? Like, what is the process? How do we decide how people can legally come here? And what is the process for that? And I think that the Democrats did understand during the last election that that was something that's a priority for the American people. And they understand that they need to be putting forward some plans and articulating to the American people what they would do if they are back in charge. And I think right now, unfortunately, the focus of this due process, I think some of the details of it are being lost in the big messaging that is out there.
On this question of due process, I'm not a legal expert, so let me preface it with saying that. But when I look at this as a layman, and I see that, you've got the protective orders from the wife, you've got the fact that he is an illegal alien, you've got two courts saying that this person has MS-13 ties with credible evidence beyond just a bull's hat, right? There's credible evidence to suggest that he's a gang member. The Prince George County, which I believe is very close to you if you're in Maryland, law enforcement said this person's gang affiliated. We saw him with MS-13 members, and you don't just roll around with MS-13 members if you're not an MS-13 member. It's not just one of those things like, hey, can I hitch a ride to, Macy's? Like, that's not how it works. So what more due process do you want all of these illegal aliens to have? Do they get 6 appeals, 7 appeals? How many lawyers are we paying for? Like, how long do they get to stay here while it's adjudicated? Because, the Trump administration's been pretty honest about this. If you want to give this extra special elongated due process to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden let into this country, we're never going to deport anybody. And I think that that's a pretty realistic, strong argument for Republicans to make here.
I don't think it's extra special. This is the due process of this country. And I don't know all the details of, my understanding was he was outside Home Depot trying to get some work. I don't know all the details of exactly that. I have not seen the evidence that he was a gang member, but I haven't looked, at all of the evidence. I'm not the judge. I do know that there are 2 judges, one of which is actually a pretty conservative judge, who has said he was not to be sent that way, that he is to be brought back. And it seems that when a judge is saying that, that's what we should be doing. Why do we have the judges if we're not going to follow the court of law? You can deport people, but they have to be given their day in court, and then you follow what the law
It seems like more than
says.
one day in court. It seems like the illegal aliens, what Democrats are advocating for is that illegal aliens should get unlimited days in court until they finally are allowed to stay.
I've never heard a Democrat argue for that or articulate that. Not once. I mean, the thing where he was in Prince George's, that was years ago when he was, and that was legally adjudicated, right?
So here's
now
my question. Do you think that a criminal illegal alien, or just an illegal alien in general, I mean, let's just take away everything. Let's just say that this guy is just a regular run-of-the-mill illegal alien. You realize that most Americans just want illegal aliens to be deported. So this is what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. I agree with you, and we both are in agreement that maybe Democrats are not reading the room. When I go on X and I look at some of the Democrats or the liberals commenting like, oh my God, due process, like bring this guy, this poor guy, one would maybe, if you only look at that, believe that most Americans want that. But then when you see the actual polling on it, it's not reflected by what the zealots on X are saying in the comments. So I'm just not sure strategically why Democrats think that this is the battle.
I think this particular case, as I've said, is to get at the due process issue. And I don't think, and I don't believe that every single illegal alien should just get rounded up and sent away. And that's not where the Democratic Party is.
Okay. Well, let's move on to some other things here. I think another thing that's going to be really challenging for Democrats moving forward is the whole Joe Biden thing. And I've obviously seen your commentary on this, and I appreciate Democrats that are forthright and transparent about this. But this whole Biden was sharp as a tack behind closed doors, I never saw any, evidence of decline. That's going to be really hard to get around. It was really hard for Elizabeth Warren to get around, and I want to play the clip. I'm sure you've seen it, but for my audience, just enjoy this one.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. The thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Fair enough. So do you think that folks like Senator Elizabeth Warren, do you think that they're really that oblivious that they didn't see any decline, or do you think they were lying?
I don't think they were lying. I think that, I mean, look, it's not like Elizabeth Warren's on the phone talking to Joe Biden, hanging out at the White House every day. I mean, that's not, I know that people think maybe that's true for
Well,
a
Nicole,
senator's
to be
life.
fair, I've never hung out with Joe Biden and I've never been to the White House with Joe Biden, but I could tell you that Joe Biden was declining. I don't think it takes somebody next to him with a, a microscope. Like, I wonder if he's declining. Let me check his, his cells. To me, it goes to the question of either you're disingenuous or you're super freaking oblivious if you didn't see any decline in Joe Biden. You saw a decline in Joe Biden, I'm assuming, before that debate?
I think the debate was eye-opening. And I do think, and I know that Democrats, both the DC Beltway and across the country, were shocked and felt like it really did come out of nowhere. It was.
You sure, Nicole?
Yes, I promise. I promise.
I have to ask you, I want you to be very, very honest and transparent with me. Because when I would hear President Joe Biden speak, I'm no fan of him, but at one time he was my president and it's my country. So when I would hear Joe Biden speak, I would be like this, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And are you telling me that when Joe Biden would speak pre-June 27th, you didn't have those same concerns?
It wasn't the situation at the debate was really, I mean, we all watched it. It was like, what question is being answered? What is this train of thought? I mean, it was, right? We all watched this debate. It was shocking in the moment, and it reverberated in the Democratic Party as such. And I really, until that moment, and I know this to be true of so many, did not see it at anywhere near that point.
Do you think that we should question the judgment of the Democrats around him then, if you all really didn't see it, and those that were actually close to him? Because the books are being written. People noticed. But do you think that that goes to the heart of the judgment of the Democrats in power?
Yeah, I think that, the inner circle is maybe the ones who would most aware, those who really were on the day-to-day.
You think Kamala has a little bit of culpability here? Because she was around him apparently quite a bit.
I can't speak for her, obviously. I don't know what she knew or how much time she was spending with him. Was she one-on-one with him having conversations? Was she simply at some events with a prepared speech? I don't know the amount of time or what she knew or didn't know, but I truly believe she does not have the character that she would stand up and just blatantly lie to the American people.
You don't? Because it's one or the other. It's either complete obliviousness or it's lying.
I don't think it has to be one or the other. I mean,
you can really be caught that off guard by it. Like, you're really telling me that Democrats watched that debate and they were like, oh my God, I'm shocked.
Yes, somebody should release all of our text chains and all of yes.
I don't think y'all want that to happen. Maybe you can add me on a Signal group chat because I would love to read them.
We could, yes, exactly. We can Pete Hegseth this. But I am telling you, it was mind-blowing and jaw-dropping. And I'm not going to say that there aren't people who were closer to him and in the inner circle that maybe did know more, but overall, complete shock from the party.
Wow. It must be a twilight zone up there because I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I could walk down to a stranger on Broadway that's blackout drunk and ask them, 3 years ago if they thought Joe Biden was sharp as a tack, and they would tell you, oh, hell no. So,
I mean, are we saying like he was not an older gentleman. I mean, sure, like I think some of it was chalked up to, and it's a conversation we can have about, age overall, was like, he would say the wrong word sometimes, but that happens with people giving lots and lots of speeches, or, I think some of it was given to the age, but it wasn't this incoherentness.
Mm. Yeah, it felt incoherent to me, especially there towards the end. It got really hard to try to mask that. Last question on the Joe stuff. Do you want him to keep doing speeches?
I think if he's doing things for good reasons, for charities, for
Do you want the
philanthropy,
news to cover it? Do you want the news to run it live?
I mean, he's not the president anymore. He's not running for anything. I respect so much of what he did throughout his Senate and vice presidential, and presidential career. That if he can bring if him bringing his name and his stature to something benefits it, then
Does
I
it
wish
benefit your party if we were to run his speeches live every time he gives one for $300K?
probably not the best messenger for us in the moment.
What about Kamala? Do you want her to do more speeches? Should we carry those live?
I think we're going to end up seeing her more and more. I don't think she's done.
Do you want her to be done? Do you think that she's the right person to pick up that baton and just run with it?
I think she can run for the governor of California.
That's how much confidence you have in California? To be fair, they did elect Gavin Newsom. Okay, let me ask you about that.
Don't get me started on Gavin Newsom. He's coming for your job, apparently. He just wants to have a podcast. State's burning down, but
yeah, he really does just want to be a podcaster. Well, he's trying to convince people that he's a moderate. Really hard coming from California.
I want the future of the Democratic Party to be governors who support workers and don't say that striking workers can't get unemployment funds, or support the companies over the workers unionizing. So that's
Gotcha.
my beef there.
I want to ask you about my friend and colleague, Steve Hilton, who has announced that he is running for governor in California. I'm going to do a commentary about it, but just your initial thoughts on it. Do you think someone like Steve Hilton, who I believe is kind of an outsider, though a conservative, an outsider certainly, do you think that he has a shot in California?
I mean, look, we've seen this again and again in the statewide in California. The Republicans just haven't been able to figure out that electorate and get there. Certainly, I think running as an outsider, anytime you can run, it's the same in DC. It's the same for the Gov Mansion, right? You're not part of this elite swamp, whether it's Sacramento or DC, is something that appeals to a lot of voters. But California hasn't elected a Republican statewide since Schwarzenegger. Is that correct? So that that's a long time now. It's a tough uphill battle, and there's going to be a lot of well-funded Democrats vying for that job.
Yeah. Well, things aren't going great in California, so maybe it's time to shake things up and maybe go a different direction. I think Lee Zeldin did so well in New York. That gives me hope that maybe California is also savable. Gavin Newsom, again, as you mentioned, not only do you have a budget shortfall in California, but you've got him doing a podcast and everything that he advocates for, even if it is policy-wise, he has to do it with a selfie video featuring him. So that man loves himself a whole lot. I think he thinks he's got a bigger future in your party than he actually does. But, he's never going to give up. So at least he is resilient and tenacious. You can give him that, I guess. I want to ask you about some of the other things that I'm confused about with the Democrat Party. Why do Democrats want men and women's sports?
That's an unfair way to phrase the question. It is it's a unique situation. I mean, I think that, people believe this to be this pervasive problem. And I think there's 10 trans athletes in collegiate sports right now. I think that it's a very difficult thing for somebody to realize that they believe that they should have been born with a different gender. And that's a tough transition. This idea that people are doing this willy-nilly kind of blows my mind, but it's not a we want that. It's that this is who they are and believe they are, and they are also a soccer player. But I understand why people have a tough time navigating it. I understand why if someone is particularly the way you put it, which is the biological male who is now a female playing in female sports, because the biology of being bigger and stronger, and we do play our sports divided. We don't have our sports be everybody swims together. But this idea that it's just this problem everywhere that, is becoming an assault on our girls. We have to save our girl. Like,
You don't think it's an assault on girls? You think that, let's just say, first of all, I don't think it's just 10. There's many biological males competing in various different areas and different grade levels and what have you. Biological men competing against women. I mean, we see a new example almost every day crop up. But do you think that, and I assume that you consider yourself a feminist, do you think that it's fair to say, like, it's only 10, so those 10 teams or those entire leagues, because it impacts all the teams that play against them, and that also spans like multiple districts, sometimes even multiple states. Do you think it's fair to say that those girls should just take one for the team because so-and-so feels that they're in the wrong body and that they should be given the luxury of competing wherever they feel like? Do you think that might be a little bit dismissive towards women?
I don't think it's a luxury.
Well, it is, because if you get to say, I identify as this, even though I'm not this, and I demand to be in your sport because I feel this way, that's a luxury that's afforded to somebody.
I think they're living that life. I mean, it's not just, hey, I'm a girl for soccer season. I mean, they're living a life now as a girl, as a woman. And we're also assuming that means they're automatically like, it's this idea that the girls are at this huge disadvantage. I mean, I've seen plenty of
You don't
terrible.
think that they are? You don't think that men, I mean, if you just look at it biologically, and when you look at these trans women who then compete against women, and you look at their record when they were competing against men and they're 464, and then they compete against women and they're number 1 or number 2, you don't think that that's evidence that maybe they have a competitive advantage? And I'm not saying that there aren't some wimpy men out there that could get beaten into the dirt by women. There are many. There are a lot of soy boys out there. David Hogg might be one of them. But I think in general, men have a pretty big advantage over women when it comes to sports and physicality. You don't think that that's obvious?
I do think that there's a physicality. I'm not denying that. I just don't think that this is an assault or an attack on the girls. I mean, sometimes there's going to be people who they're living their lives as girls and women.
Why should we make those accommodations for those people because they want to be that?
They don't want to. They are, and that's the thing. It's not making an accommodation.
But they're not. They're not a woman. They're not a woman. So why should a young girl, I would assume that being a feminist, Me Too movement, all this stuff, why should a young girl, 15, 16 years old, have to go into a locker room and look at someone's ding dong because he says he's a woman today, or for 2 years, or for 6 months, or for 5 minutes? Why should women have to just get over it? Like, it's so bizarre to me because Democrat women, to your credit, have been the ones fighting for feminism and for women's opportunities and equality and empowerment. So I am so confused why women who are Democrat feminists are not saying, whoa, whoa, whoa here. Women need to be the ones that are considered first priority here. And then we will deal with the trans women next. But why should the trans women be given priority, their feelings priority, over biological women?
I just don't think it's their feelings being given priority. I think there's an underlying assumption there that all these women on these teams are angry about it. The locker room certainly has nothing to do with the actual sport itself. I'm sure we could all.
It's actually worse because competing against a sport you might lose and that might suck. But if you're in the locker room and you're a young girl and you have to look at a penis, that to me takes away consent. Like, those girls don't want to look at a penis in their locker room. Right?
Well, I'm sure that there are ways to accommodate in the locker room. I just don't, these people, like, again, it's not a choice that they're making. They're trans.
It is a choice, though. No, it is a choice, though. You can't just say you're something else. You can't just say I'm something else. It is just, this is what I don't understand. And I want to be compassionate to people who have gender dysphoria and who are questioning who they are. I think it's more of a mental health issue. Myself, I personally think it should be addressed from a mental health perspective. But I just don't understand why Democrats just continue to dig in on this. And I want to be compassionate.
Threatened by it. I mean, I guess that's what I don't understand. Why this seems to be such an attack. Why it's such a threat to have people who are living this way. I don't understand where that comes from either. I mean, I have a daughter. I'm the coach of her. I mean, she's little. I'm the coach of her soccer and her basketball team. I can't fathom if there was somebody who was living as a trans girl and woman and was participating, having any feelings towards them than I do to all the other girls who are playing the sport.
So question for you. You have a young daughter. Let's say she wants to play the sport in college and she misses out on a scholarship opportunity because Billy over there got that spot because Billy is now a woman. That's not going to rub you raw a little bit. That's not going to piss you off at all. You're going to say, oh, well, Billy wants to be a girl. Like, you wouldn't look at your daughter and be like, this is unfair to you.
But I wouldn't say Billy wants to be a girl. I'm assuming, well, maybe Billy does go by Billie Jean King. Billy is a girl, is living as a girl, has identified and is having
so you
a
tell your
life.
daughter to just get over it? You'd say, I know that she's got a huge, we'll say she.
But
I know she has a huge advantage, but just get over it because this is the life she has chosen for he.
But it's not a choice. This is where we're fundamentally not going to see it the same way because I don't see it as a choice for them. And there's a lot of reasons that my kid might be phenomenal at a sport and be one of the 1% that gets a college scholarship or doesn't. And that's life.
Wow. Well, you're right. There is just a fundamental disagreement, but I appreciate digging into it because, I really do think it's important to have these conversations. The last thing I do want to ask you, though, and you're very willing to have a conversation, and I have found many Democrats that are willing to have a conversation, but I've noticed something, and I'm wondering if you've noticed it as well. When I flip on what I would consider Democrat media, CNN, MSNBC, unless I'm watching Scott Jennings or unless I'm watching, one of the token conservatives that are on these networks or someone from the administration, when I'm watching Democrats talk about things, I don't even feel like the Democrats in media want to understand the conservative perspective. I don't think they have a desire to even understand it, to even see it, to know what it is. Because I really do want to know, like, some of these things mystify me about Democrats, and I really want to know, like, why do you think that way? I'm curious. Do you think that there's a lack of curiosity from some, especially in mainstream left-leaning media, a lack of curiosity to even understand the other side?
I think that's happening in both ways. I appreciate you having me on here, obviously a self-identified conservative with a conservative perspective, having a Democrat on. I feel like a lot of times, if I'm watching Fox or, seeing a thing on Newsmax or I'm watching on MSNBC, that you don't see what is the other side represented in the panels or really dug into a lot. And I do think it's important for all the media to really be just, reporting the news and then having the different perspectives on there, allowing them, to talk and have what is a respectful debate happen. I do think that's important. And I think it's important for both sides to understand where the other side is coming from. I do think that is crucial for this country to be able to move forward because we do have people that identify as DNR, but more and more that are identifying as independent because they don't like what maybe the party label is. But we have to be able to live and grow together. We need this country. We all want it to be successful. We all want to have lives where we can, send our kids to a good school, feel safe in our communities, take a vacation once a year, not have to stress about the heat bill or can I get all the groceries that I need this week. I mean, this is common place for American families. And we want to see a country that's thriving on the world stage. And we want to be that beacon of light for the world. That is something Americans take real pride in, right? This experiment that we've been doing for 200 some odd years called democracy. And for us to do that, we have to understand, okay, I'll just use this as an example, think every person who entered the country, no matter what they've been doing since they've been here, whether it should be deported. I do not. Why do both of us think that these is the way to grow America? Have that conversation about what is it? Because I don't think you hate America or people, and you don't think I hate America or people. And yet we have a very opposite place of where we think America can be a thriving economy. So yeah, it's important that both sides do that, but I will not sit here and say that it's only the left side, left-leaning media that does it. I think both sides are pretty culpable in not representing and having those conversations.
Yeah, I guess that's just kind of been my experience. I feel like at Fox News, we try to invite as many Democrat voices as possible. And especially in the podcast world, I think a lot of conservatives really want to have those conversations. And I don't know if those on the left are as open to them. I don't know if they invite them as much. Gavin Newsom does because that's his way of cosplaying moderate. But I don't see a lot of those on the left wanting to have the same conversations or allow a conservative to voice their opinions and give them the floor without trying to make them look stupid or whatever. But, both sides have our issues. I appreciate you being on with me and having the discussions. I think that we've found our fundamental differences, but maybe, we found ourselves in a cross-section of understanding. So I appreciate you. Please do come back, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Tell your friends at Fox I'm here. Talk it up on the left side.
You got it. You got it. Thanks so much. All right, folks. My friend Steve Hilton is ready to save California, and let's just hope Californians are wise enough to take the lifeline. Time for final thoughts. California, my friend and colleague Steve Hilton is throwing you a major lifeline should you choose to take it.
This is not just any other state. California means to America what America means to the world. Let's make California the land of opportunity again. Great jobs, great homes, great kids. Let's make California an inspiration again. The very best of America. There's only one way to do that. We've got to end the one-party rule that got us into this mess. It's time to end the years of Democrat failure. It's time for a new future. That's why I'm running for governor. To make this beautiful state that we love so much truly golden again.
That is the announcement I have been waiting for, and I can't think of a better person to take on that giant task than Steve Hilton. And honestly, what do y'all in California really have to lose? You are the 5th largest economy in the world. You have beautiful geography, sought-after colleges and universities. You have agriculture and tourism and great weather and Hollywood and money and land and good-looking people. You have to try to F all that up, and well, by voting for Democrats, well, you kind of have. Especially when it comes to your current governor, Captain Selfie over there, Gavin Newsom. He's legit the worst, and he doesn't even care about you anymore anyway because he's a podcaster now. Your state is broke because you've handed it over to illegal immigrants. Your leaders have disappeared tens of billions in homeless spending. Thugs smash and grab your stores and businesses like it's a sport. And now apparently some vagrant is going around chopping down trees in downtown LA. That's beautiful. And that's the part of LA that's not burned to the ground, by the way, while your mayor was yucking it up in frickin' Ghana. When it's hot out, y'all got to shut off your AC and appliances and car chargers so as not to overload the grid. Yet your genius leaders also signed you up for an EV mandate. You've got climate change zealots, but apparently they aren't too concerned with the sewage that's flowing into your coastlines and beaches from Tijuana, Mexico. And that's just the southern part. Up north, people have to put signs on their windshields begging thugs and junkies not to smash their windows and windshields. And you also have a dedicated poop squad in San Francisco to help keep track of all the human literal crap in your streets. So to all that I say again, you've been given a lifeline. Take it, and don't look back. Those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch full episodes of the show on outkick.com and Fox Nation at your leisure. Please do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.